There is a moment, softer than silence, quieter than breath, when you first begin to stir in the morning. The sun hasn't quite touched your skin. The thoughts haven't yet formed words. And for a few precious seconds, you are still untouched by the noise of who you're supposed to be. You haven't remembered your worries. You haven't reloaded your fears. You haven't chosen what to carry yet. But then it happens, almost immediately. Your mind reaches not forward into possibility, but back into familiarity. The same story, the same ache, the same inner loop you never meant to rehearse again, yet somehow find yourself whispering under your breath. Not out loud, but within. Like an old song you didn't ask to hear, but know all the words to. That quiet reflexive act, that's your focus. And it's building the walls around your reality without you noticing. Focus doesn't show up like a loud decision. It shows up in where your mind returns to when it has nowhere else to go. The person who hurt you, the thing you never got, the fear you can't name but always feel. I remember once watching a child try to build a tower out of sand only for the waves to wash it away again and again. Yet each time she rebuilt it in the exact same spot. Not because she thought the sea would stop, but because she hadn't yet imagined another place to build. We're the same, aren't we? We keep building an emotional territory that is proven over and over to be unsafe. Not because we're broken, but because that's the only place we've learned to focus. Focus is not some motivational buzzword. It's the blueprint of your becoming. It's the thread connecting your thoughts, your moods, your beliefs, your choices, even when you think you're being passive. Even when you think you're not doing anything at all. If every day your mind begins in loss, in comparison, in dread, don't be surprised when your life starts to mirror that emotion, because what you focus on first often becomes the filter for everything that follows. And yet, here's the truth that will both soothe you and challenge you. You are allowed to choose again. You are allowed to redirect your gaze before the day defines you. You are allowed to pick up a softer story, even if it's unfamiliar. You are allowed to stop rehearsing pain as if it is your name. But that shift won't shout. It will whisper the same way the morning does before your thoughts speak over it. So tomorrow, when you wake, don't rush. Don't reach for your phone. Don't reach for your worry. Stay just for a moment in that gentle space before focus returns to its old habits. And when you feel your mind go there again, to the same bruised memory, to the same internal argument, to the same need for closure, pause, ask yourself, is this where I want to begin again? And if not gently, look elsewhere, not far, just a different corner of your inner sky. Because you don't need to solve it all. You just need to stop watering the pain long enough for something else to grow. Let this be your beginning, a softer focus, a quiet return to yourself. Imagine walking through life with a camera pressed to your forehead, the lens permanently zoomed in on whatever has hurt you the most. You wouldn't call it photography, but somehow you start mistaking those images for truth. You're not seeing life. You're seeing your focus. You notice who didn't text back. You remember the silence more than the laughter. You track mistakes with the precision of someone trying to outrun failure. But it's not that the world is cruel. It's that your internal lens has been shaped by fear, by lack, by self-protection, masquerading as clarity. There's a small part of your brain, quiet, mechanical, trained to sort through billions of details every second. it throws most of them away. What it keeps, whatever confirms your deepest beliefs. If you believe the world is unfair, you'll see missed chances everywhere. If you believe love is always leaving, you'll catch every glance away, but miss the arms still reaching for you. It's not magic. It's not fate. It's filtration. And the problem isn't just what gets in, it's what gets left out. There's beauty you're not noticing, progress you're not celebrating, tiny shifts you're too focused to witness because you're only scanning for signs of pain. But here's the invitation: adjust the lens. Not with force, not with fake optimism, but with a gentle shift. What else might be true, right here, right now, that I haven't let myself see? The world hasn't changed, but maybe the way you hold your gaze can. There's a strange comfort in pain you've memorized. It becomes a room you know how to walk through in the dark. You might hate its walls, but at least you know where they are. You know how the echo feels. That's why people stay. Not because it feels good, but because it feels familiar. I once met a woman who could tell you the exact moment her life went wrong. She'd say it like a script: the year, the betrayal, the mistake, as if saying it enough times might undo it. But what she didn't see was that she had built her whole identity around that fracture. And maybe we all do that in different ways. We wear our suffering like name tags, forgetting we can peel them off. See, the mind is addicted to patterns. And if pain becomes a pattern, a rhythm you've danced to for years, letting go of it can feel like losing a piece of yourself, even when that piece is the one that hurts. We think healing means feeling better. But sometimes healing just means choosing different. Not because it's easy, but because repeating your pain no longer feels like belonging. It feels like bleeding. So ask yourself gently, what am I still holding? Not because it serves me, but because I've grown used to the weight. And if the answer brings silence, maybe that's where the healing begins. Your mind is a garden, but it does not care what you plant. Give it worry, and worry will grow. Give it grace, and grace begins to take root. The problem is, most of us inherited soil filled with weeds, old fears, handed down doubts, thoughts repeated so often they no longer feel like thoughts, they feel like truth. I once spoke to a man who said, "I don't know how to think any other way." He wasn't being dramatic. He had spent so long focusing on what was broken in his life that the idea of noticing beauty felt dishonest. Like optimism was betrayal. But here's the quiet truth no one tells you. You don't have to believe every thought to stop feeding it. Just like you don't have to hate a weed to stop watering it. Not everything you've focused on needs more of your energy. Some things just need to be starved, left alone, allowed to shrink in the sunlight of your new awareness. Because what you feed will grow. And every time you gently choose to focus on something kinder, even if it's small, even if it feels fake, you're planting something different, something softer, something worth keeping. It won't bloom overnight, but it will root. And one day, you'll look around and realize your mind became a place you no longer fear being alone in. Focus isn't loud. It doesn't sparkle. It won't trend on social media. But it's sacred. It's the quiet thread running through everything. What you choose to notice, what you give your energy to, what you keep coming back to when no one's watching. We're taught to focus to achieve, but no one teaches us that focus is also devotion, that where your attention goes, your soul follows, and what you continually return to becomes your temple. There was a time I thought my exhaustion came from doing too much, but I realized I wasn't physically tired. I was mentally scattered. My focus had been hijacked by everything except what actually mattered. I was checking for reactions, tracking other people's moods, chasing closure from moments long gone. No wonder I couldn't hear myself. Focus doesn't require more hours. It requires more honesty. Ask yourself, what's taking up the most space in your mind? And does it deserve to? Because when your focus is divided, your life becomes blurred. But when your focus gets clean, like a window finally wiped of dust, you begin to see what was always there: peace, clarity, and the quiet strength of someone who no longer wastes energy explaining their worth. Some things heal the moment you stop feeding them, not by fixing, not by understanding, but simply by looking away. There is power in your silence. There is healing in not reacting. But we live in a world that teaches the opposite, that everything must be explored, expressed, explained, that every discomfort is a problem to solve. But what if it isn't? What if some thoughts are just noise, background static from an old channel you forgot to turn off? I once watched someone spiral for days over a text that never came. They imagined a dozen reasons, played out every worst-case ending. But when the truth finally surfaced, it wasn't betrayal. It was busyness. Life had simply moved, and all that energy spent on guessing was never necessary. This is the danger of overfocus. It gives small things gravity they were never meant to carry. It keeps wounds open that would have closed on their own. So here's your quiet permission. You don't have to chase every thought. You don't have to earn your peace by analyzing your pain. You can simply stop feeding it. Let the spiral starve. Let silence do what words can't, because healing doesn't always roar. Sometimes it sounds like stillness. Not all transformations look like fireworks. Sometimes they look like pausing mid-thought, like taking one extra breath before reacting, like noticing one quiet truth in a room full of noise. We keep waiting for breakthroughs that feel cinematic, tears, revelations, applause. But real change is often quiet, unimpressive to anyone but your own nervous system. It's choosing to turn your gaze just slightly away from the storm and toward the horizon. I remember a friend who used to replay the same argument with her father in her mind years after he had passed. She wasn't angry anymore, just stuck. One day, instead of replaying his words, she started remembering his laugh, and slowly the loop lost its hold. That's all it took. Not therapy, not a grand decision, just one redirection of focus. That's how healing begins, with the tiniest turn towards something lighter. Not perfect, just lighter. Your brain doesn't need proof. It needs a pattern. Show it a new one gently, repeatedly, and it will learn. So when the old thoughts return, as they will, don't fight them. Just don't sit with them too long. Wave politely and look somewhere else, because your power isn't in force. It's in where you quietly choose to return to. There's a version of you that only exists in memory, the one who didn't know better, who stayed too long, who trusted too easily, who broke quietly. But you are not that version anymore, even if you still feel her pain, even if you still wear his habits, even if your voice still trembles, like it once did. You are more than the moment that hurt you. But if you keep looking at life through that wound, you'll keep mistaking survival for identity. You'll say things like, "That's just how I am." But what if that's just how you were when you were still bleeding? It's easy to confuse consistency with truth, to think that just because you've always thought something, it must be who you are. But healing doesn't mean becoming someone else. It means remembering you were never broken, only buried, under patterns, under fear, under stories you didn't write but started believing. Look at your life today, not the chaos, not the noise. Look closer at how you say no now, at how you pause before reacting, at how you no longer chase people who leave. These aren't small things. These are the roots of a new self forming one you might not recognize yet, but who's already here waiting to be noticed. Some truths are so quiet they can only be heard when everything else stops humming. Here's one of them. You don't have to heal everything. Some things fade on their own when you stop holding on. Not every thought needs a journal page. Not every feeling needs to be translated. Some emotions just need to pass like wind through open windows. Maturity is not solving faster. It's reacting slower. It's choosing what gets to stay in your field of focus and what no longer deserves your energy. And that choice, it's the beginning of freedom. Because where your attention goes, your identity grows. So if you keep watering the version of you who's afraid, don't be surprised when you keep shrinking to fit that container. But if gently, without perfection, you start tending to the version of you who knows peace is possible, who trusts softness, who stops performing pain just to feel real, you begin to shift. No announcement, no lightning strike, just a quiet change in rhythm, a loosening in the chest, a softening behind the eyes. That's how healing moves. Not in explosions, but in the decision to give your energy on purpose. So here's your reminder, not to try harder, but to choose softer. Not to chase more light, but to stop feeding the shadows. Some things lose their power the moment you decide they're no longer worthy of your focus. And in that decision, you come home to yourself.